Hello, it's Claire from Angelicscalliwags. Welcome back to my channel. I am a homeschooling mum of 5, although I'm only homeschooling my younger 2 now, as the older 3 are, one by one, flying the nest. Over the almost 2.5 decades of homeschooling, we have spent rather a large chunk of our time at the table creating. We all loved learning about history, its artefacts and artists, so this was a natural continuation of these studies. I have written my own curriculum for studying Mesopotamia, which includes a fiction book about our family and all the adventures we got up to learning about this ancient civilization. I am making these videos to go along with the curriculum. However, the activities in them are perfect for any family night, where you just want to spend time together and have fun. In this video, I will be recreating the Temple of Anu atop the Ziggurat at Urek. I have decided to read out a little excerpt of my book Angelicscalliwags in Mesopotamia pertaining to this particular ziggurat at Urek. Hopefully this will give you more information, but in a fun way. But first, a little history lesson on ziggurats in general. Ziggurats are unique to Mesopotamia, and while some may think that they are the Eastern equivalent to pyramids, they would be wrong. Pyramids are burial sites for a pharaoh's tomb, reflecting the Egyptians' belief in the afterlife. In contrast, ziggurats were temples dedicated to the city's main god and built to connect heaven with earth. Also, whilst pyramids tended to have a rectangular or triangular bottom rising up to a point with many interior chambers, ziggurats were a series of solid, tiered structures. I have also created some free printables which you can make into flags, stickers and posters, as well as some note pages for those of you who'd like to use this video for learning purposes. Okay, well for this activity you'll need some red clay, white clay, clay tools and a ziggurat picture, which I've got one just down below in the description that you can download and print out. The first thing we're going to make is a ziggurat base. And to do this you don't really need to condition your clay for this because you don't need it to be soft. So all I did was chop the red clay into 2 parts and put one on top of the other. And I am now just sloping off the sides using my favourite tool, which pretty much gets used for everything. As you can see from the picture, you'll need to leave the top of the ziggurat completely flat because that's where the White Temple of Anu goes. So leave that nice and flat and just shape around it. While I'm doing this, I'm going to read an excerpt from my book. This is based on actual conversations we had when the children were little. I've kept a blog for over 12 years and have a record of lots of the chats and both the successful and unsuccessful lessons that we've had. In this excerpt, I'm sitting with my children at the table whilst we chat about the significance of this particular ziggurat. The temples at Urek were built on top of the Ubaid temple. In fact, once archaeologists began stripping back the temple remains over 100 years ago, they found that there were many layers and therefore concluded that new temples were built on top of old temples. By the time the White Temple was built on top of the Anu ziggurat, it extended more than 40 feet above the surrounding plains. Both the ziggurat and the White Temple were made out of mud brick. But the White Temple was covered in? Claire raised her eyebrows in question. Oh, that white stuff the Natufians put on the floor. The stuff we made the whiteware from, Charlotte squealed. Limestone, Thomas stated with a smile. That's right. They did that possibly to make it more attractive and less of an eyesore, she finished. Why do you think they added a temple to the ziggurat? This time Lily began to speak. Was it so it would be higher and therefore closer to the god Anu? He was, after all, the god of the heavens. Oh, good thinking, Lily, cried her twin. I thought it was to give the god somewhere to live. She giggled at what she now thought was a silly idea. Actually, Charlotte, you're nearly right, said her mum. Am I? Get me. She laughed again. In fact, it is thought that the White Temple was the gateway between the gods' worlds and our own. The Mesopotamians believed that Anu descended to the altar within the hall of the great temple. But Lily is right as well. In fact, the very height and splendour of the temple indicates the very great importance the people of Uruk placed in their religion. Why do you think that is? Claire paused, waiting for a response. It might be that they didn't understand the science of things like we do now. Maybe they created a religion which helped them to explain their unknowns, like seasons, or how the earth began. Thomas started. Charlotte continued. Also, would they have prayed to the gods for things that they wanted, or for health and wealth? Well, we'll be covering a bit more about Mesopotamia religion in more depth in a few weeks, but you both have the right idea. Right, let's go back to the activity here. You can see me making the steps now. I'm just cutting them out using a cutting tool and my favourite tool again, just to smooth it out. I'm making the steps progressively more wider. And you can just about see the steps or slope in the picture that I drew, which is on my iPad there. And that's what we're trying to recreate. So I did one on the other side as well. If you have children who love tactile things, I love tactile things. Clay is such a wonderful medium to work with. Okay, well, I made obviously the bottom there with red clay, and we want to put white clay on top of it and learn from my mistakes, because I'm not the tidiest or neatest of workers. But I had to make sure that I really cleaned the surface and my hands really well, because the first time I tried it, it all went sort of orange, which you don't want. And I think I just went and washed my tool there, so just make sure that everything that you're using is clean, because the white clay does go any other colour but white, a bit like washing. Okay, so I've cut off vaguely the amount that I want in comparison to the size of the ziggurat. Obviously, if you make a bigger ziggurat, you'll need a bigger amount, and a smaller amount. So I'm just doing what I normally do, which is just to smooth every side. If you do this, first of all, I haven't conditioned the clay, because actually you want this clay quite hard in order to be able to put in the details that you're going to do. So I haven't conditioned it at all. I've just left it cold. I'm making it into a nice rectangular shape, smoothing all the sides, and in smoothing the sides, that means that when I go to add all of the details, they'll show up more. So the next thing is to do those little details. So I'm using a serrated tool here. To be honest, if you don't have clay tools, really just knives and forks work absolutely fine. But I'm using this serrated, which I guess a knife would have a serrated edge. And I'm just copying from the diagram and just adding in the details. If you're a perfectionist, this might be your least favourite part. I'm not, and so it's my most favourite part. It doesn't need to look exact. The point of this is for your children to have lots of fun and for it to be slightly educational. Now, I've talked about drying your clay projects before in my last video, which I'll put up, or maybe on the end screen. I think I was making cylinder seals. But when you dry your clay, you need to make sure that you're turning it over so that all the different surfaces of the clay are meeting with the air, because it's the air that dries it. and a full structure like this will take a few days to dry properly. Now, joining the temple, to be honest, I just pushed it on. But I was thinking about this when I was looking back, and actually you could use matchsticks and just stick a couple of matchsticks into the base of the ziggurat and then push the temple down. That would make it a lot more stable for if you're moving it around or for storage, which I think probably I should have done, because they come apart quite easily now. Now I'm just making the indentations to give the impression of how the ziggurat looks in my picture that I drew. I'm just using a pointy tool for that. You could probably use the edge of a knife or a fork. Something I noticed that I had not recorded was the black roof of the temple. This was covered in a thick coat of bitumen, making it more waterproof. I did add that simply by painting the roof with using acrylic paints, which you'll be able to see in a minute on the next photo that I'm going to show you now. And that's it. A simple and very fun activity to do for both homeschool and for an unusual family night. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and do let me know if you or your family do this at home in the comments below. Until next time, don't forget to dream impossible dreams. Bye bye.